Hello, Mrs. F1.
Hello, Mr. F1.
How
Apart
are you?
again, we
Yep.
are. Just through a screen.
Hopefully the last time.
Yeah, hopefully the last time. We'll see. For all of you, this isn't F1 related, but I feel like we've given the people like a life update. We found a place to live. Woo! So we'll finally be back together soon. I'm excited for that because we can have a really cool setup. 97 days and counting to the next F1 race. Did you start counting down as soon as the last race ended? Because I did.
We got a lot of time.
A lot of time, but 97 days I feel like is going to go by so quickly.
I hope it does.
Me too. I mean, it's weird having a weekend where you're not like watching a race.
Although it seems like this off season we should get some more spicy news.
Some spicy news, some
Yeah,
hot takes, if you will.
that's right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think we'll be seeing as always, I think I said this in the last podcast, is like the off season is never quiet. It usually is like the first couple of weeks. But then as the season goes on, we know more unfolds. Personally, I'm going to start a Justice for Mick club because I wanted to talk about this with you actually the other day and I forgot to. Did you hear Mick Schumacher's radio at the end of Abu Dhabi?
Didn't they tell him not to do donuts or something?
Yeah, and it was the most sad thing I've ever heard. Cute little innocent baby Mick is just trying to send it off on, quite frankly, not a fantastic year for him. And they're literally like, Mick, seriously, you need to stop doing donuts. And then he goes, okay, love you guys too. Oh my God.
I don't understand what? Who cares if the car breaks, right?
I don't know.
Like, what if
Haas
the
is,
axle snapped in half? It doesn't matter. The season's over. They got to build a new car. What,
yeah,
like,
but
I don't get
Haas
it.
recycles things.
Eh,
I could see them, but I felt so bad.
that's crazy.
And I didn't see really any. I did see that they did like Gunter Steiner did a little talk in the garage thanking Mick. And from what we've heard in the press, it seems like their relationship has been very rocky.
Hmm.
This whole apparently this entire year. Um, and he did say like you'll always be a part of our team. You played a huge role. And let's be real, like without the money that came with Mick to that team, Haas kind of owes him
Hmm.
after, that Eurocali situation. And to be frank, they brought a lot of attention to the team because of his name. Like I said, I hope we see him back. I think he just needs some more time and a team that's going to foster his talent. But justice for Mick, he should have had a good send off and he didn't.
I don't get it. I think, yeah, maybe Mick burned bridges with them, and that's why the relationship went sour. But um, I don't see him doing anything other than like IndyCar, Formula E. I just don't think he's got a chance unless he gets a reserve seat.
I think he is. It's sounding like Toto Wolff is pursuing that. He's made it very vocal in the press that he would love Mick to come be a reserve driver for them. And they're kind of in need of one right now.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be curious because I don't think Kevin and Nico are known as guys who bring a ton of money.
yeah.
So where is Haas getting their money? Like, are they still stealing money from Eurocali basically? Because I remember there was a whole like Eurocali was trying to pull their money back and they were like, no, you signed a contract. So where's Haas getting their money?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that question because I was thinking the same thing. We know Mick brought a substantial amount of
Hmm.
sponsorships and money backing him, specifically the sponsorship Haas has with One and One.
Hmm.
And their stipulation was in order for Haas to receive their sponsorship and funding, they had to have a German driver in one of their two seats.
Well, they still do.
Yes. And I'm starting to think, I mentioned this in our last podcast. I was scratching my head, like, why Hulkenberg? I feel like there's some other options
Hmm.
out there that could have been better for you. Someone cheaper,
Hmm.
probably. And then a light bulb went off the one night I was thinking about this. Is like, he's German.
Hmm.
And to keep that one and one money, they need a German driver in that seat. So is that why they chose Hulkenberg over some of the other candidates that were out there?
Hmm.
And I think speculating that played kind of a big role
Yeah.
next to Hulkenberg stalking Gunter Steiner every day.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, justice for Mick shirts coming soon on our merch. I just love him. He's so cute. I want to squeeze
I
his
wanted
little
him to
cheek.
do well, but he didn't do well. And then the way he kind of, made Haas seem like he thought he was better than them, it just rubbed me the wrong way, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I
He's not
know,
good enough to act like that.
no, but like honestly, now that more's coming out, and especially after Gunter's interview with Beyond the Grid, I think the press made us think it was Mick, especially
Hmm.
after the summer break. It's now sounding like it's Haas.
Hmm.
That they were kind of like, yeah, we just want to like be more successful like right now. We don't have time to foster you or develop you as a
Hmm.
race car driver, and we're just gonna forgo re-signing you because we just need somebody that can perform. And I that's literally sounding like what it is.
If that
So
were the case, why wouldn't they just say, "Hey, we'll keep you on as the reserve driver to, hopefully you can develop, and we'll get a driver who has more experience developing a car in the car every week." But I know they have Fittipaldi as their reserve driver, and they really like him. But as much as I like Fittipaldi, I mean, Mick's probably a better driver than him. So that to
yeah,
me is why I think it's more than just car development. I think there was some burned bridges where they were like, "Yeah, we don't even want you to be our reserve driver."
yeah, I don't know. I don't know either if like I'm leaving a team. I don't know if I would stay as a reserve driver, like going from that seat to reserve. So, anyways, off the Mick topic, because I feel like we've talked a lot about Mick and other drivers that have been,
Hmm.
you know, rolling
Left the
around here.
sport.
We'll have like a Mick watch section to see where he goes. So for the Mick watch section this week, he's just out there with
Mhm.
nobody. So there we go. There's the Mick watch. Speaking of watching, look how smoothly I'm going to roll this into the next section. Um, I was reading an article about how the viewership of Formula One this year in the United States specifically has broken every single record out there, which I think we all kind of expected, but still great news. Like it's almost like confirmation of what you're thinking. Um, so let me just read a couple of these stats. I thought they were quite impressive. There's a 28% increase in viewership over this last season. An average of 1.2 million watchers per race. That beats the record previously set in 2021. This one was really interesting to me because I thought out of the American races that would be most watched, I thought Austin would kind of beat out Miami. It did not. Miami GP had an average of 2.538 American viewers. It's the
Million,
most 2.538 million, not
not
2.
2.53 Americans. That would be wild.
If that's breaking a record, we have a real problem.
Yeah.
Yes, 2.538 million average viewers. It's the most viewed race stateside this year.
Yeah, that shocks me. Well, yeah, I'm mixed on that. I guess it's a new race and people like new things, but Austin's such a good race. I love that track. And Miami was this fake parking lot track. It was. I didn't like it. I mean, Miami's a cool city, but I felt like they could have made it a lot cooler than they did make it with the fake water
The
and
fake marina. How can we
yes,
forget about the fake
ridiculous.
marina?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I
Oh,
guess people just like new things, so that's that's the new race. But in the vein, we're talking about all this increased viewership in the United States. Obviously, Netflix has a lot to do with that, and
mm-hmm.
nobody would debate that. But it's incredible how F1 and Liberty Media and all these companies that do that, they've timed this perfectly. They got this huge bump in viewership. They're adding races slowly to the United States. They're seeing the most viewers they've seen ever, and now they're adding a third race. So they're just capitalizing on all this momentum that they're building. Now we have an American driver. It's like this is just such a perfect way for them to try and break into a market that they didn't really have success in previously. I
Yeah.
mean, it's brilliant. I think people will, so other sports will study kind of how F1 decided, look, we're going to target America. We got this Netflix series. We've added some more races. We've got an American driver now. It's really, really well organized.
Yeah. I agree. I think, and coming since like I'm in the marketing sphere, it's what I do for a living. It's genius. It's,
Yeah.
and not just that, the show itself is produced and edited and directed so beautifully to really it really shed light on a different part of Formula One that has never been accessed before by the public.
Hmm.
And I think that is not I think that is the reason it's had such success
Yeah.
is younger generation, our age people connecting with someone personally is what
Yep.
brings you in. I mean, that's what
Yes.
brings you into most sports.
It's the humanization. It always is. I mean, look at the success that Hard Knocks and some of the other All or Nothing, those other sports documentaries have
Hmm.
had because people love to watch their sports and then watch those documentaries and feel like they actually know the people that they're rooting for. You get
Like
to
you're part of the team.
exactly, yeah. It we love that humanization thing, and for all the vitriol that Netflix gets for over dramatizing, and they do. Nobody's gonna deny that. It's also pretty well known that America loves drama, so I don't think that that was. I'm sure they played into that, knowing that that's going to help people get, you know, cling to the sport.
Yeah. And I want to be really clear, like I feel like there is this stigma about people who've come into the sport because of DTS.
Hmm.
Um and I want to be very clear that like us especially and on this podcast, we don't care what kind of fan you are. If you're here for the racing, if you're here
Hmm.
for a driver, if you're here for the glitz and glam of it all, as long as you're here, that's all we care
Yeah,
about.
it's like those people who heard a band before everyone else, and then they judge people, and they've only
Yeah.
heard them when they're famous. Like, who cares how you got into Formula One?
Yeah.
There's some people that have been watching it for 40 years. Some people watched Drive to Survive and got into it.
Yeah. And I
Who
think
cares? It's good for the sport, no matter what.
absolutely. And I think, you and me have always been aware of Formula One, but Drive to Survive has really like made us invested in it, I guess you
Hmm.
would say. And that's okay. Like I saw somebody like leave us a review on our podcast and they just happened to listen to the episode where you did say a fact that was incorrect, which we corrected in
Hmm.
another episode, by the way. We're going to admit right here, right now, we are not perfect. We're going to make mistakes on this show. We're going to say things that are incorrect, and we will try our best to correct them. And please, by all means, let us know. But I saw someone leave us a review, and they're like, oh, typical new DTS American fans starting another podcast. And I just was like, my friend, if that is your mindset,
Well, first off, whoever left that review, I want you to know that I care so little about your opinion that I hope that the time that you took to type that, you realize that you wasted your life doing that. A. B, like you said, we're somewhat new to the sport. We're gonna make mistakes.
right.
You
And
know,
that's
I
okay.
will correct them. We're obviously learning more about the sport, more about the history of the sport. And the reason we're doing this is to kind of help other people,
Bring
understand the
them
sport.
along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're all in this together. We're all learning. We're all fans and part of this F1 community together. So, and even like the best of the best get it wrong. So I'm not, I just find that funny. But yeah, back to like the Liberty Media thing, I think it has been the number one reason why we're seeing these numbers so
Hmm.
high. Another stat that had to do with women in viewing Formula One, women viewers increased by 34%
Hmm.
over the numbers in 2021.
Yeah,
That's insane.
especially in an engineering heavy sport.
Yeah,
It's known that men tend to be more
in the
interested in
STEM.
engineering
Hmm.
in the STEM fields, but that's a huge increase for women.
Huge increase, which makes like up 28% of this year's viewers are women,
Hmm.
which I just love to see. I love to see that as a woman myself. I always tell you this every time, like, I would say male and female. Like anytime they find out I'm into Formula One, they're like, "You're into Formula One?" I get this like, "Why would you be into Formula One?"
Hmm.
type of reaction.
And then they assume
Um,
that you're into Formula One because of the good-looking drivers instead.
exactly. And
Hmm.
it's like, yes, let's not brush it off the table. A lot of these guys are literally Greek god specimens of a man. But I am here for the sport as a whole. I can enjoy their good looks and enjoy the racing and understand
Yeah.
the engineering. That's like totally fine. So yeah, I found those stats really interesting and also just really encouraging, especially as an American F1 fan. Knowing that there's more of us out there is exciting. Speaking of females, we've kind of been holding off on waiting to talk about this, just because of the end of the season. But Formula One has decided they're throwing their hat in the ring when it comes to female racing series. They're starting their own female-led racing series called F1 Academy.
Hmm.
When I saw this, I was like, yay, but also a giant question mark above my head.
Yeah, I was really confused, especially after we saw the struggles of the W series and how the season just ended. You know,
Hmm.
it, and we talked about it before, and I ranted about how I was so frustrated that F1 TV wasn't carrying the W series races. And now it makes sense. They've been developing their own version. It kind of seems like they're undercutting W series, which is frustrating. It's good that there's going to be more series for women to be able to compete in and drive in, but I'm just very confused as to why F1 didn't invest into an already established racing series to
Hmm.
help them stay afloat and grow and expand. And that
Right.
could have been their F1 Academy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also the reason why I was kind of questioning it. Let me just read off some of the details. There aren't a ton of details released right now as to how the series is going to work, how it's going to run, blah, blah, blah. But F1 has released these details. It's going to be an all-female driving category that lives under the Formula One umbrella. It's launching in 2023. There'll be 15 drivers and 5 teams total. There will be 7 events in their 2023 season. And F1 will provide up to, well, no, will provide 150,000 euros
Mhm.
per team per car. And the drivers in each car must also bring at least 150,000 euros to the table as well. And the teams will then cover the rest of the remaining costs. Um, what do you think about this whole money situation? Because
Yeah.
we know W Series, for those of people who don't know, W Series is completely covered by W Series.
Hmm.
Drivers don't have to pay anything, they don't have to bring any money,
Right.
nothing. They just show up. So,
Right.
what are your thoughts about this?
That's a perfect world scenario with W series, and obviously it didn't work out because it
Well, it's not
folded.
working out.
Right. Yeah. So I understand the reality of needing to bring money. Now, like 150,000 euros is not a lot in the grand scheme of racing.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
believe
pennies.
somebody said F2 can cost like 1.5, $2 million, 2 million euros, whatever.
Mm.
So yes, it's significantly cheaper, but still 150,000 euros for anyone to just scrounge up. I mean, unless you're sponsored, it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't seem feasible. You
Yeah.
know, and yes, it's cheaper, I understand, but affordability is, this might be comparatively much more affordable than F2, but realistically, it's still not very affordable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm surprised at how little money they're bringing to the table for each team. Um,
Yeah.
but weirdly, I am happy to see that the drivers are having to come and match that amount on their side. And this is a problem that I wasn't super thrilled with the W series. And I know we talked about it in the past, but the fact that like women, like if in the W series, don't have to bring any sponsorships, don't have to bring any money, just have to bring themselves. Yes, that's a perfect world scenario. But unfortunately, as soon as they leave that W series world,
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah. They're going to need
Um,
sponsorship to move up.
yeah, and I think it's important, and I'm kind of glad they're incorporating this in the academy because these girls need to learn how to go out there
Hmm.
and how to, get sponsors, get big names to back them. Because as soon as they start moving up within these series, these categories, they are going to need the money. And if
Hmm.
you haven't had to do that before, like it could hurt you
Yeah.
in the end. Now we have seen W Series drivers get sponsorships, which is great.
Hmm.
But like, at the end of the day, I think it's important that you have to bring something,
Yeah.
because it's going to prepare you for the future.
Right. Or at least have some sort of sponsorship set up so that, for example, Jamie Chadwick killing the W series, but it seems like it's really tough for her to make this transition,
Hmm.
whether that's because teams aren't willing to, there's a lot of different reasons that could be. But,
Hmm.
I think for the F1 Academy, like you said, if they have sponsorships set up to where they're able to have their sponsors pay 150,000 euros, if they are good enough to move up, they already have that sponsorship set up in place. Whereas with
Hmm.
W Series, you could have a really good driver. If they don't have sponsors, it's going to be tough for them to move up.
Yeah. And it's going to be tough for teams to bring you on
Hmm.
when you don't have any.
You're not bringing any
So,
money.
right. So we talked about the difference in the money. There's also a difference in the type of car between W Series and F1 Academy. So you have more kind of understanding about this, Matt. So why don't you
Sure.
explain it to the people?
It seems like it's basically a carbon copy of the F4 car, that's going to be in the F1 Academy. Whereas the W Series car was kind of an in between F F4 and F3, a little bit more powerful than the F4 car, a little less powerful than the F3 car. Seems like the F1 Academy is going to be pretty much equivalent to F4.
Hmm.
And F4 is kind of it's different. F4 has series in the United States and Europe and Asia, whereas there's just one F3, there's just one F2. Um, so yeah, it seems like it's going to be kind of an F4 for women, hopefully to feed them into F3 if they're successful enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the goal of this academy,
Hmm.
um, which I think is a good goal to have, obviously. Um, but I think it's interesting that you could go to an academy sponsored and backed by a huge brand and name, Formula One, but you're going to be driving an F4 car, which is less powerful, 165 horsepower.
Hmm.
Or you can go to W Series, that isn't as well known of a series, not backed by a big name like Formula One, and right now is teetering on the verge of
Right,
financial insecurity.
right.
But you'd be driving a more powerful car. It's putting out
Hmm.
270 horsepower.
Yeah.
This is the other difference. And I guess the question I have for you, well, for both of us really, but I'll let you answer first. Do you think F1 Academy is going to become this rival to W Series and in a way hurt W Series in the future?
Yeah, my guess is that it's tough to say because we don't know the financials of W Series.
Hmm.
I don't think the financials of W Series are sustainable without backing from F1. So even though the car is more powerful, and to me that translates more for a jump from W Series to F3 instead of F1 Academy to F3. I that just the state of the series itself makes me think that, um, even though that should be an easier jump, I don't think it'll be that way
Mm.
because I think that F1 Academy, like you said, might just undercut W Series, and because it has funding from F1, it'll continue to live and W Series unless they get funding somewhere else. Who knows?
Hmm. Yeah, I think F1 Academy is going to provide a smoother route for women to enter those other F series. Um, W series, for example, you can be a W series driver, but you actually have no access to F1 paddock or F1 teams at all
Mm-hmm.
unless you are partnered with them. Like Jamie
Academy
Chadwick's part,
driver.
right? Jamie Chadwick's Academy driver. Jess Hawkins is a reserve or a test driver for Aston
Mm-hmm.
Martin. Those girls are the only ones that get access to
Right.
any of that F1
Right.
world. And that puts them leaps and bounds above those other girls. Um, so yeah, I think it's gonna hurt W Series. I think to sponsor when F1 Academy is looking for sponsorships, these companies are gonna be like, well, F1 Academy is backed by F1, a
Yeah.
name people know and love.
Yep.
And they
It's a
also
more
have,
financially steady series.
yep, and they've got bigger marketing dollars to put
Hmm.
behind this academy and push it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm also curious to see if we're going to see women ditching W series that are currently driving in that series now and going for F1 Academy.
Yeah.
Yes, the car is less powerful, but the connections
Hmm.
are way more powerful in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
I do you think we'll see Jamie Chadwick make that jump?
I There are 22 seats open in F3. I will be livid if she's not in one of those seats.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense to me why a team wouldn't take a risk on her.
I
The
don't
big
get it.
names have already filled the seats in F3. Why wouldn't she get one of those seats? And just last year there were a couple of F3 drivers and F2 drivers. I'm thinking of Chembolik Bossi, who started the year, didn't do well, and they ditched him. So why wouldn't a team take a risk on Jamie? And if she doesn't do very well, you know, swap her with another driver and
Right.
she goes back to W Series or F1 Academy or something like that.
Hmm.
In her scenario, why she's not already signed to an F3 seat is beyond me. But my worry is that if we do see a lot of girls jump from W to F1 Academy, I think that's the death of the F or the death of W Series.
I agree. Losing big names like that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure these women do feel a certain loyalty to W series, like especially Jamie Chadwick, some of these girls that have been with it since the beginning. They
Right.
feel very much, I'm sure, responsible for it and a part of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. And if F1 Academy is going to get you closer to that F2, F3, F1 seat in the future, girl, do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, no,
Always, yeah. I won't blame any girl for making that jump if she thinks it's better for her development as a driver, for her future.
mm-hmm.
But like you said, there is something to having that loyalty to the series that kind of brought you onto the map.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. We'll see how this F1 Academy plays out. As a fan, I'm super excited that there will be two women driving series I can possibly watch in one season. So that's exciting to me, and we will see what happens, what the future holds for W Series, what that means for F1 Academy, and I'm excited, but also scared at the same time, if
Yeah,
that
I'll
makes
tell you
sense.
what. And the one last thing, you currently cannot watch F4 races on F1 TV. It's
Hmm.
just F1, F2, F3, and then Porsche Super Cup and some other things. I will be really mad if they don't put this series on F1 TV. I know like I said, they don't have the F4, the current F4 series on TV. They need to add that so we can watch it, and they need to add F1 Academy and charge more money. I don't care. Like, you know, if the whole point is to develop the sport and develop these drivers, let people watch them. If the
Yeah.
series gets funding and from viewership, then that helps sustain them.
Yeah. And we've seen that with W Series when they've raced in tandem with Formula One, and they've had their races on the same weekend at the same track. They had some really great viewership numbers
Mm-hmm.
this year, which is even more puzzling as to why they're having trouble holding on to sponsors, and getting money. They're getting some decent viewership for a new series that's only 3 years old. So it's interesting, but I agree. Give it the chance. If
Mm-hmm.
nobody can watch it, how do you expect it to grow?
Exactly.
I think you could argue that for a lot of women's sports,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Yeah.
sporting categories. So
Yep.
we will see. We'll see what the future holds, but crossing my fingers that W Series at least makes it through next year.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that series fail. I feel like this year I would count that as a fail.
Mm-hmm.
Having to
Yep.
end your season early because you don't
Yeah.
have the money.
Yep.
So yeah. Let's move on to some rumors. I'm going to call this Box Binotto. Do you like my little names for these sections? I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll. There have been rumors circling for the past couple of weeks about Mattia Binotto
Mm-hmm.
possibly resigning, being forced out of Ferrari. And I know you have expressed your
Yeah.
Italian-like vigor for Binotto being replaced. Um, Before I ask you this, it's funny because we were literally texting when these rumors started coming out, like that he was going to get the can. And then Ferrari very quickly came out with a statement saying, no, 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 these are false. That's not happening. Like, we're behind Binotto. And you said to me, oh, well, I guess it's not going to happen. Ferrari said it's not going to happen. And I said, because Ferrari responded to this rumor so quickly, makes me think even more that this is happening. Like, you don't see Formula One teams respond to like media-esque rumors like this that quickly. And they jumped on it so fast. Um, do you think this is going to happen and when, if so?
I don't know. I I think it should happen. Whether I think it will happen, I honestly don't think it will happen. Um,
Hmm.
I think I think that if it does happen, it'll be a um, voluntary resigning from Mattia, and that's what some of the rumors are saying is that he's resigning, and that I would believe. But I don't think Ferrari has the balls to fire him right now. I mean, we were talking about there's rumors that Ross Brawn is going to come back to Ferrari um,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
or Fred Vasseur from Alfa Romeo. I don't think that this is going to happen. And like I said, if it does happen, it'll be voluntary because he's feeling the pressure. Um,
Yeah.
and if it does happen, then then we have a an interesting conversation as to who takes over.
Yeah. I mean, what the rumors that I have heard is that it's not necessarily the team itself that is wanting him to leave. It's the board of directors
Mm-hmm.
that has really been unhappy. And honestly,
Yeah,
rightfully
rightfully
so.
so. Yeah.
They could have won this championship this year and they completely blew it. And a huge part of that was due to the fact of their team's own mistakes, specifically strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think Ferrari might need a little bit of a shakeup or a change. And I honestly would not be shocked if Charles Leclerc is expressing
Mm-hmm.
um his grievances with how the team operated this year. And Charles is their golden boy right now. They are investing a lot of their future, their brand in that boy. So keeping him relatively happy is in their own interest. We already know he has a quite a long um contract with them, but they want him to resign, I think. And quite frankly, if I were the board of directors at Ferrari, I'd be looking at someone's head on the chopping block for a kind of a failure of a year. Yes, they came in second in the constructors and in the drivers championship, which is better than they've done. But still, when you look at the way the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the season started and where they were at the end, it was like, yikes.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, what do you think about Ross Brawn? Obviously, Ross Brawn has actually just left Formula One as the directing manager, F1 managing director of motorsport. So he's
He
fresh off
developed the
that,
2021 car. He helped
right.
develop the 2021 car.
He's fresh off that boat.
Mm-hmm.
He may be looking for something new, and the man's had quite a track record of success.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that could be good for them, bad for
Well, I
them?
mean, anything is better than Mattia right now. I mean, that team is a mess. But you know, I think Ross retired because he wanted out. So I would be shocked when I heard that rumor. I was shocked because I thought he was kind of done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, his resume is pretty dang good. You know, winning 5 championships with Michael and
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari, and then creating a team and then winning right away. And what
Right.
is basically has turned into Mercedes, which has been a powerhouse for the past 8 years, minus the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think actually I know Ferrari would be a better team with him behind the helm, but will it happen? I'm not confident. I don't think that he's going to be willing to jump back in, especially with the pressure of the Ferrari team principal spot.
Yeah,
That's that's too big a burden at his age to, after he's had such a successful career. I don't know why he'd want to risk it by jumping back into that mess.
you never know. he got bit by the championship bug multiple times. I feel like the urge to be back in that type
Yeah.
of success and place never goes away. Fred Vasseur, who is like another rumored possible replacement for Mattia, that is interesting to me. I mean, kind of new blood. He's never been a team principal, unlike Ross Brawn at that team. He has close ties to Ferrari. Obviously, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari operate very closely together, and Ferrari
Mhm.
is their engine provider, power unit provider for Alfa, until Audi comes along in
Mhm.
2025, 26. So I see the connection there, but I
Mhm.
don't know
He's
if he has what it
experienced too.
takes.
I mean, he's an experienced guy, and I think to me that's the more realistic option. Unless Ross really does want to come back, I don't think he would, and that leaves Ferrari with Vasseur or Gunter, which would be fantastic. Imagine Gunter at Ferrari. I would love that.
That
I
would be
don't.
pure anarchy.
It would be. I don't see that happening. So I think if Mattia's head is on the chopping block, I would guess that Vasseur has the job,
Yeah.
unless Cyril Abiteboul comes back.
Cyril the people. Oh my God.
No.
Talk about I don't know if that would work. The French and the Italians.
Oh
I
gosh,
I don't
no.
know if that would
No.
work.
It wouldn't. But it'd be entertaining.
Yeah. It would be
It would be
entertaining. So would
very entertaining.
So would Gunter Steiner at Ferrari.
Yes,
Ferrari
it
is
would.
everyone is very unison, one voice, one
Yeah.
team, never throw the team under the bus ever is like their number one golden rule. And I think like Gunter Steiner would just be like, this team is shit.
Yes. He would turn the team into a bunch of rock stars though.
We look like a bunch
That's
of wankers.
yeah, exactly. I
Oh
love
my
that guy.
God. Just I'm picturing him right now in full red, and I don't like it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I
Ferrari,
do
make it
not.
happen.
Oh my God. Please don't. I may not be able to ever sleep ever again.
What I would do for you.
I want to play a little game with you.
Okay.
Would you rather F1 edition?
Uh,
Okay. I'm going to give
okay.
you three of these. Would you rather questions? Don't hesitate too much. I love
Okay.
you, but you are a thinker. You're an analyzer.
Yep.
Just spit out the
Emotion, not
answer.
logic. Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
emotion, not logic. But I'll have you explain your answer after, but don't
Okay.
try to explain it in the middle. All right.
All right.
Ready?
Go.
Would you rather be trained by Joost Verstappen or Max Verstappen?
Oh, Max. Yost is a dictator.
But I hear what you're saying to that, but Max was trained by Yost. So
Yeah. He seems more mellow than his dad. That's why I'd pick that.
that's true. He probably wouldn't kick you out of a car if he lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Second one. Would you rather have the Red Bull livery or the McLaren livery?
McLaren. I love the orange.
Yeah,
Papaya.
I have to say, I'm hoping Red Bull next year come with a little different livery. They've kind of rolled with the same thing every year, just a
Hmm.
little tweaking. I would like to see a new livery come from them.
Yeah.
And last but not least, last one. Would you rather have the hair of Carlos Sainz or Sebastian Vettel this year?
Neither Mattia Binotto, because I already have his hair.
That wasn't an option. But yeah, guys, low key, if you haven't seen what Matt looks like on our social media or our YouTube, his hair is very reminiscent of Mattia Binotto. I feel like we need to get you those Harry Potter glasses, and
Circular glasses,
yeah,
exactly.
that'll cement it in.
But
That'll
between
cement
those two, I'm picking Science because Vettel's hair is looking weak, looking
Vettel's.
like it's on its last leg. I love you, Seb, but man, that hair looks like it's you're about to be bald soon.
I mean, the addition of the headband this year.
Yeah, it is pretty sweet.
I mean, we were throwing it back. I felt
Yeah.
like he was about to break out an aerobics workout at any moment. His hair was just so reminiscent with the headband. I was waiting for it. Seb, if you're looking for something to do in retirement, lead an aerobics class, get yourself some short shorts and some neon see-through shirts with that headband, and you'll be good to go.
Carlos has a good head of hair on his
He
head.
does. When I was thinking of that question, I was like, okay, who has the best hair? A lot of them have good hair, but who are the top two with the best hair?
The best hair.
Seb and Carlos came to mind for me.
Oh man.
I mean, that's tough, but we can maybe have a whole episode to debate best hair of the paddock.
Yeah.
Next week, you guys, we're gonna come back with another episode. We're gonna talk about our favorite moments of the 2022 season, on track and off. So you won't want to miss that. And as always, our lovely video podcasts are now up on YouTube at Mr. and Mrs. F1. You can always follow us on TikTok, Instagram at Mr. and Mrs. F1 Pod. Same on YouTube. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. F1 Pod. And then, as always, guys, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a little 5 stars. Tell us what you like about the podcast. And, like we mentioned in the podcast earlier, if we get something wrong, just DM me. Just DM us. We're happy to correct ourselves and also give you a shout out and some cred. So, as always, guys, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye, Mr. F1.
Bye, Mrs. Evelyn.
Bye.